Hey, folks, this is Brian Blessing. Hope you're enjoying the Hockey Betting Podcast. We have a couple chuckles, try to get you a lot of winners. If you like what you're hearing, hit the subscribe button, give us a review, give us a rating. Most importantly, enjoy the hockey and keep coming back to the Hockey Betting Podcast.
You're listening to the Hockey Betting Podcast, presented by BetCrisCanada.net. This is the Hockey Betting Preview for Friday, March 13th. Saturday, March 14th, and Sunday, March 15th, 2020. And now, live from Las Vegas, the host of the Hockey Betting Podcast, Brian Blessing.
All right, folks, the Hockey Betting Podcast. Brian Blessing in Las Vegas, Cam Stewart up in Mississauga. Usually, we love to have a lot of fun, a lot of giggles. We'll still have some giggles. I mean, levity will help get us through these crazy times along the way. And we're going to be with you. We're not going to go anywhere. We're going to keep doing the Hockey Betting Podcast on the premise that, this is going to come back. And we hope sooner rather than later. But first things first, it's all about taking care of yourself, your family, everybody be safe. And, Cammy, we cross our fingers and hope this is one massive speed bump that we find a way to smooth the road out and get back on the beam. But in the short term, not just hockey, everywhere, a massive punch to the gut. And the way our lives are normally lived have been changed significantly, my friend.
Well, Brian, I guess we can, freshen up on the KHL tonight. We got Barry's Nurse Sultan minus 213 versus Sabir. Novus Burks plus 175. Oh, Jokerit. I know those guys. They're plus 150 versus SKA St. Petersburg. We got two games on the docket, buddy.
That St. Petersburg power play has been white hot. God bless you, kid. Listen. Let's all be hope for the best, hope for each other. But I'll tell you one thing: you got to keep laughing and smiling. I mean, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, you do. And, the problem with these type of things is you get to realize what nice people are and what pricks are. Like that person, at the store with no limits taking 100 rolls of toilet paper and not leaving anybody for everyone else, like a prick move. Like, help out a senior citizen. Like they're the ones who really need the help the most. I feel bad for old people to begin with, but old people and children, Brian, that's the problem. Thanks, right now. And we're getting older. I'm not totally older yet. But honestly, like I see some young guy walk in there, like taking like every, all the Purell and the toilet paper. It's like, hey, jackass, like why don't you save some for other people? But what are you gonna do? There's bricks everywhere.
Take the hockey, chirp them in the grocery store.
No, I honestly
take that hockey background.
I felt like grabbing his like coat, putting it over his face, and just dummying him right there. Put him in the turtle position. Return the toilet paper.
he pulled a Claude Lemieux at the Costco.
Cool. I'll do worse than Claude Lemieux. These turkeys. But anyway, Brian, you're right. We're not trying to make light of the situation, but like our livelihoods is what we do. So a lot of the shows are going to be canceled. Losing money, that's one thing, and that's frustrating. But hopefully, safety is more important. So hopefully we can get through this thing. And hopefully it doesn't take months. That's the thing.
You nailed it, buddy. I mean, I've had the stiff upper lip and feel fortunate for, I've had ups and downs, man. Good times, bad times. And you know what? Though as goofy as this sounds, the bad times, give you alligator skin, and you just. It is what it is. And
great point, Brian. It's a great point. Like you need something bad. Like this is totally different, and it's like at a global scale. But even in your life, like getting laid off from a job, downsizing, stuff like that, it rips your heart out earlier. You freak out, but then you reach a point and go, okay, well now I got to get out of bed and I got to deal with this situation. So you're right. We will persevere through all this stuff for sure.
As for the hockey, which was, the funny thing is Rudy Gobert is like, he was ground zero at this whole thing, and the shared arenas, NHL, NBA, the NHL had, no recourse other than to, follow suit. And then we watch, and honestly, on a completely as an aside, you and I also do a golf podcast. Just to slither this in, I was heartbroken. that, NASCAR is going to run their races with no fans as of today.
Yeah.
I thought golf really had an opportunity, and provided the players were on board with it. You've got 144 guys in a tournament, so make it 288 guys, count the caddy, and wave to your playing partner. You want social distancing, and you're playing on 4,000 acres of land outside. I thought golf could have kept going.
I agree with you, but the bottom line is this, Brian, and we know today's world, they bowed into pressure.
Of course.
And I was watching the broadcast, and I knew things were bad. It was very simple. Like, I'm watching the whole broadcast, and when I hear Brandel Chambly, a guy who is basically, they tell him to jump at Golf Channel, he'll listen. Like, this guy's been working there a while, and he questioned why they were working, and then him and Duval have a little bit of a back and forth on the desk, and I'm thinking, we're done. Like, I thought we could get through this with the golf, and I agree with you, just the way the sport is played, but you still, I guess you would have no marshals. A lot of the marshals are senior citizens, as Rory McIlroy mentioned, and it's very tough for the European tour players. Look at Bernd Wiesberger. They had an interview with him. He's from Austria. They have a ban. They have a flight ban to the United States. What's he going to do? His family's there. He can fly to the UK, go here. Basically, when the LPGA guys said we're shutting it down, the PGA just said, okay. I think they really wanted to play, but it was pressure. And another thing is, hockey was one of the last ones to bow down too. Like, you don't think they're a gate-driven league? Like, they need to play. They need to play, right?
Well, you and I know. By the way, the last thing on the golf thing, and the other thing I was so excited about with no fans, that the golf course would actually play the way the golf course was supposed to play.
Exactly.
I was really looking at
it. Won't hit any fans. Like, yeah, it's not there to hit. Hey, Jimbo, it hits him off his gut and bounces right into the fairway. Hey.
That snap hook on 16 and the guy's over on number 13, But you're so right about hockey, because let's just cut to the business side of hockey. You and I have been around this sport for many, many, many years. And the bottom line with hockey, they don't have the massive TV contracts that the other main leagues have.
Correct.
And for 90% of the league, missing the playoffs is devastating. Not just for your fan base that, you're not in the playoffs, but the only teams that make money in hockey are teams that win a round in the playoffs and make it to the second round, because the home playoff added gravy. The home playoff gate for a couple of rounds actually makes a hockey team profitable for the year.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Brian. Like some franchises, you look like Vegas doing very, very well. Toronto, like there's teams that, you could sell out the buildings and stuff like that, but you're absolutely right. Like, compared to other sports, the TV deal's minuscule, gate-driven league, and you could tell, like, they really wanted to play. I think the player, but this is what it comes down to now. You can't have one league playing and other one's not, hence the PGA Tour. And I'm actually surprised. I guess NASCAR makes sense because you're in a car and you just drive around and around and around, right? So anyway, but isn't there still a pit crew and all this other stuff? I don't know how this thing works, Brian. I'm not a doctor. We're cappers.
Well, the pit crew guys look like they're wearing hazmat suits.
Exactly. Anyway, exactly. But you know what we could do, Brian? And that's the thing. We talked to producer Mike, and he's an upbeat guy. But here's the thing: we could look at futures moving forward. Teams. Take a look at some prices. We could do some gambling segments. What's this type of bet? That type of bet. There's a lot of things that we can do for the new gambler. Tell them about parlays and juice and all the other terms we use, VIG, slang terms and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, it's not over yet here, but no, it's just a big blow. That's all.
Okay, but just in terms of what lies ahead, none of us know.
Correct.
First things first, as you see the COVID-19 thing, if the numbers, they're going to peak or they're going to go up, and we hope they peak quickly and then start to trend down. Then there's light at the end of the tunnel. So that's the bottom line. I mean, that's where we stand. From the sports perspective, the impacts, if they were to come back, how they've got all these plans in place. They're doing conference calls. Can you see if your arena has dates as late as into August? The thing is, how long does this take? Does it bleed into next year? I think the most realistic thing, and this is sad and scary, the most realistic thing is let's hope, as this is the best case, but I would say, boy, the bare minimum is let's pray that everything's back up and running in the fall as life goes on normally. Let's pray for that. If we get lucky and things are going well, could they come back? Is the regular season? The funny thing is, we do another podcast with our buddy Bruce Marshall. The NBA would be very easier than the NHL because, for the most part, in both conferences in the NBA, it's highly unlikely that the 9 seed in either conference, they're like 3.5, 4 games back with 15 games to go. We know the 16 participants for the most part in basketball. Easy fix. Let's come back. We can play the playoffs. Hockey, you have 6 teams in each conference vying to get in at the bottom, and the 8 seed, the biggest difference is the 8 seed in hockey can win the cup, and the 8 seed in the NBA can't win a round. So, what they'll end up doing here, do they even, if they were to come back, do you bloom it out that even more teams are in the playoffs and it's a tournament when they come back? All these things are on the table.
Yeah, no, it's going to be very, very interesting, Brian. I know my buddy, he came up with a concept for the playoff concept. It's kind of complicated, but that's the thing. We don't know what's going to happen. Does it get exponentially worse? Do things get better? But I got to believe, we're going to stay optimistic that we can, get these seasons done. But yeah, craziest stuff, man. Like we've seen natural disasters before in baseball. The San Francisco series, the earthquakes, 9/11 and stuff, but nothing to a level of like every single league like this. So this is unprecedented territory, buddy.
There's no doubt. And then the other thing that's a very big deal, and boy, you talk about, a real Armageddon scenario for the sport itself. All the goodwill, all the things they were talking about, okay, with labor peace, avoid a lockout. All right, players want the Olympics back. Salary cap was going to be 84 to 88 million, so that's on the rise. All of a sudden, Cam, based on what happens here and the massive revenue loss that's going to happen, players were hoping their escrow was going to go down. The reality is now escrow's probably going to have to go up, if not stay the same. The salary cap that was going to go up likely comes down or stays the same. And you hope they can all find, middle ground and a level of flexibility on both sides. Big picture, that this thing gets up and running, and not the impact of this year, but years to come, that what seemed to be trending towards labor peace now, because you throw all this massive revenue loss in for both sides, that this doesn't send that off the train tracks.
Yeah. It's, what the problem is, Brian, with something like this, there's just so many things you think about. You brought up a great point: salary cap, lost revenue, workers inside arenas, fans. The thing is, it is the trickle down effect is so huge. Like it's very, very worrisome. But we got to pray for the best, buddy. Like that. Let's hope that the doctors are on top of this stuff. They can figure it out. I tell you something, they were talking about in Korea, they had basically like drive-through restaurants where people, you go in there, boom, you get the swab, you get it done. Morency was telling me in New York City, it costs like close to $4,000 US just for a test. So no one's getting tested. Like, so think about that scenario, right? Who's going to drop $4,000 to go, oh, okay, I might be sick. I could be sick. But so there's a long way to go, and man, I'm praying that it's going to be all right.
From the betting perspective, Cam, obviously, in the books are, they're ghost towns. But how this all pans out, you got regular season points, you've got indexes, odds to win divisions, the cup, the conference. Those kind of things, if they were to come back, the playoff version of it would remain alive. But the thing is, if they were to come back, would they, if you're saying most teams have about a dozen games left, would they be able to find a way, to even complete the regular season? If they can't, one of the other options and they are discussing this is, and I don't know how deep you go, is how big a tournament you make it where, even some that are close I don't know what you do. You have play-in games or whatever, but it could broaden the scope of the thing. But first things first, just get them back on the ice.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what they're going to do and how the season's going to be stretched out. Like, what are we going to do here? Do we finish this one in fall, Brian? Like, buddy, I got to tell you, like, there's so many thoughts going through my head right now. I have no idea. But it's a shame too. Like, think about the teams on the cusp of the playoffs, right? It's like even in college basketball, like, hey, Yale, you win the tournament, Florida State, you get your prize. What about those teams that are peaking like at that time and could have made it? We're never going to know these things, right? That's kind of the problem. XFL. Look, the Houston team's 5-0. Do sports books award them as the winning team? I would assume so after the season's over, right? So there's a lot of questions the way, future bets, all this stuff is going to be handled too.
All right, I want to thank our friends at BetCrisCanada.net. It is the hockey betting podcast. You talked about the impact on many. Elliot Friedman's reporting the New Jersey owners, Josh Harris and David Blitzer, they're going to pay the hourly event staffs for the upcoming postponed Devils games and Prudential Center events. So that's good news. I mean, things like that. I know Mark Cuban did that in the NBA. You would like to think that would be a uniform thing that all these teams will do it, but the trickle-down effect of this thing is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is, buddy. And right now these numbers that they're putting out, like, they could be back in like 30 days in the NBA. I got to believe, like, and that's just, Brian, we've been in this business a long time. We've seen that before. That is like not even like best case scenario. Like, I think that's a pipe dream, to be honest with you. But, hopefully things can get done. I don't know what we're going to do, buddy. We got to find some other stuff. The good news for you is you're a jack of all trades. And, like, you're a horse guy. Hey, you talked about it. Animals are still running. You got 4 legs. We're going to be betting on you.
Well, the animals, that's what they want to do. The animals, they're bred to do that. Yeah, but the crazy thing is, from a betting perspective, if horse racing keeps going and you're doing it with no fans, the impact on that, well, it's pari-mutuel wagering, so the on-track handle is going to be way down, so the pools will be weird. NASCAR, apparently, at least as of today, unless they face a ridiculous PR backlash, which in this era is certainly possible.
Yep.
Let's see if NASCAR actually, I don't think it's a big thing, to be honest with you. If NASCAR is able to stage that race Sunday, if they don't cave in and run the race with no fans there, maybe other sports will say, okay, look, let's try to get back at it with no fans. So maybe this NASCAR race on Sunday is a big deal if they can actually get through it.
That's a really good point. But the thing is, Brian, I understand that, but the thing is the effects you're never going to know, right? That's why they've taken this approach. Sure, it looks good. Say they get through the race, everything looks good, but you don't know. You might not know till days or weeks or whatever afterwards. That's the problem.
Wait a minute. Wait, now the word's coming out. NASCAR is going to postpone the race.
Really? As we speak?
Yeah, in the last bit, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Masters.
Who do you got a Gulf Stream, Brian? Send me your horse picks, buddy. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Hockey Betting Pod. 24-hour horses. Down, boy. Oh, yeah, we're ready to run. Let's go.
Yeah, but the odds are there'll be a 3-year-old son of Into Mischief who says, I'm not running.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah. That's the thing. I was, when we were talking too, I was talking to Mike. I'm like, hey, at least we got golf. I go, talking, then golf got canceled. You're like, at least we got NASCAR. It's like, oh, Brian.
The golf one, I swear. The European guys would be hard for European guys. Maybe I get it. I just if they can't stage a golf event, Cam, outdoors with no one there, forget it. All sports is done.
No, I know. You're yeah, exactly. That is the stick. You're absolutely correct. I don't know, man. Like, Brian, I don't even know what to tell you anymore. It's just like this is going to be the crazy time. Like, I can't even remember a couple like days ago, people were like, oh yeah, whatever. Look how fast things escalated. That's the shocking thing. Like, even in Italy, they thought they had it under control. And then yesterday, when they have the country in lockdown, it was one of their worst days. That's the problem. It's unpredictable, and that's not good news for us.
Well, I mean, color me heartbroken. I mean, the reality of it all kicked in when they said the Masters is done.
Oh, I know.
It's my favorite event of all time.
Yeah. When the Masters is done, you're right. Everything about it, like the anticipation for just being there. You know how I was very lucky to actually go there, walk the grounds. You're right, buddy. Like Stanley Cup playoffs and the Masters, like I live for that stuff. And it's not going to be the same, buddy. Better take up a hobby. I guess I'm going to go. I don't know. I can't even go bowling. Like, people touch the balls. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do.
Oh, jeez. Well,
the dart league. I don't know. What do you do? That's the thing. I don't know.
Well,
it's hard living without betting. I can tell you that. I've been doing it every day for the last 30 years. It's kind of like, I don't know.
That's such a great point. Is in fact, my lovely bride, her name's Marie, but Cam calls her Rhonda.
Yeah, Rhonda Rickshaw.
Rhonda Rickshaw. That was the genesis of it. Yeah, that's hilarious. But she came in yesterday, and our granddaughter, they were coming home, and Marie says to me, she told our granddaughter, I don't know how Pop is going to be. And like, my granddaughter's like, what's wrong? And she's, there's no sports. what is Papa going to do? He's welded into the recliner watching sports.
Exactly. No, you said it, man. It's scary times right now. It's sad times, Brian, but hopefully, by some kind of miracle, we get this thing under control and life will be normalized again, buddy.
All right. So from the hockey perspective, Cam, all things are on hold, but we will continue on. We're going to keep doing this. I think what we'll do is in the short term here, we'll kind of recap and reevaluate team seasons. I think we can go through it by division in next week. In the prospects of if and when they return. But then I think, if need be, we got some great old time hockey stories, Cammy. We're going to have some fun with this. For the hockey fans, we're going to stick it out. Let's get through this tough weekend. And hopefully with each day, we see that news starts to get better. Today's the darkest day, and we're hoping that we see light at the end of the tunnel and the prospects of it's going to return. But as of today, couldn't tell you.
Yeah, you said it, buddy. All we can do is keep our fingers crossed. You're right. We got great stories. Like I could tell you some stories about, my journey to the Cup and players that we've met, talked to, things that we did. I guess we're going to do kind of like the old Don Cherry grapevine, right, Brian? Just pull up the old seat, have a couple cold ones, and out come the bag of stories, pal.
Cammy, one of the other things we can do, as I said, we'll break down the teams, recap their seasons, how they've been. The other thing, moving forward, you got the combine. Does the combine go on?
Yep.
The NHL draft. What do they do with could the NHL draft actually be staged before the Cup is handed out?
Yes, it can be. Don't you think it's going to be?
That may end up being, right?
Yeah. No, it's crazy, Brian. Don't worry, buddy. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna have story time with Brian. I got a couple bad stories too. So, guys, we'll keep you entertained and we'll do our best through this. And hopefully, by some miracle, we still have a season.
Yeah. Oh, I got a couple Clint Malarchuk beauties.
Oh yeah.
Oh, one of the funniest people. I mean, unbelievable. Hockey players are the best. Yeah. It was one of the worst days ever. A good buddy of mine, him. We'll leave him nameless. Was a cameraman between the benches for the Sabres. Now you got all the the analysts are down there. But I used to get a call after every game when I moved out here. Oh, you won't believe this. Domi and Ray said this to each other, or the stuff where they're chirping each other between.
Oh yeah.
And I get 30 a night. Go, that's hysterical. Who the funny guys are and the stuff they would say. That would be the best. There in the interlude, that would be great if they had the mic'd up thing.
Oh yeah, for fun, like for guys that used to hate each other when they played and stuff like that. And you said it though, Brian. Like you go into a locker room, yeah, good game. You know, we tried our best. Like hockey guys come across as the most boring guys, but when they're out of their shell, they're out of control. That's the thing. Like you get the old canned answers, and then when the stories start flowing, things get real.
Oh, it was one of the funny things when Stone got traded to Vegas last year. And boom, they put Stone on Pacioretty's line, and both of them, they made no bones about it. I hated this guy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, I hate this guy. They went to war. And then they said, yeah, it's kind of awkward. And, all of a sudden they started scoring goals, and they're out there hugging each other, and how quickly it changed that you're teammates, and now you're going to war with the guy. But literally, probably the guy that Stone hated more than anybody in hockey, he ended up on his line.
Yeah, great point. I remember when I went to Boston, they used to sell these T-shirts, Brian, when I was doing it, said Montreal Canadiens dive team. It was like a piece of like Max Pacioretty falling off like a diving board and like broken into like 10 pieces. It was the best shirt. Canadiens diving team with Pacioretty. It was great. Yeah, no.
I tell you, the league's actually, you know what? It's funny you mentioned that. One thing that actually has worked, they've gotten diving out of hockey. It used to drive me nuts.
There's a couple guys, but you're right. It's way better now.
Gone.
Like 100 times better.
Let's see, buddy. I'm older than you.
Yeah.
But the greatest diver of all time, not even close. The greatest.
The greatest diver of all time?
Yeah.
That's tough. I was going to say Claude Lemieux, but he's probably one of the biggest like snakes for like sucker punches and stuff like that. Who's the biggest diver?
Barber with the Flyers.
Oh, Bill Barber?
Oh, God. It's amazing. I mean, God, he'd feel the guy breathing on him.
Just
and all of a sudden, I mean, it was like Michael Phelps coming out of the starting blocks. Yeah, and he'd get away with it all. He'd draw 2 a game. But then they went to the, they wanted to get diving out of the game. They called the hook and the dive. No, It's one or the other.
I agree. You can't have both. You're either embellishing. Yeah, no, I'm with you. That's one thing that's got better. Once we get this instigator stuff better, so there's no cheap shot artists, then we'll be totally happy, Brian. That's something they still got to deal with. You can't take liberties with people's stars. You talked about Buffalo and Tampa Bay at the start of the year, those games in Finland. That was an absolute gong show. Tampa Bay might as well have been carrying Uzis and knives the way they were playing right now.
Hey, and you know what? The funny thing is, and you just brought this, and I saw after you mentioned it in our last podcast, I actually saw a couple articles online about this. I mean, the word's out, but Tampa Bay has gone out of their way. I think they had such a stone on their shoe about having a historic season last year and getting whipsawed in 4 games by the Blue Jackets. That they've embraced that role of coming in and being nasty and dirty.
Yeah, they're the bad guys. They're the wrestlers with the foreign objects right now. Razor blade to the top of the head. What else? Oh, here comes Abdullah the Butcher. Going to stick a microphone in your eye. Yeah, whatever. Like these guys, I tell you, and I said it the last show. You talked about it with the Sabres. I saw it at the Leafs game. The Tampa Bay Lightning are sneaky, 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 dirty. They're a dirty, dirty team. They're a good team, but man, they're sneaky, dirty.
All right, buddy. Hey, Kucherov's the Iron Sheik.
Oh, yeah, he is. That's another thing. Don't let Kucherov fool you with his points. That guy's a slew footer. He'll trip you. Oh, yeah, he's got a lot of evil tricks up his sleeve.
All right, we're going to have some fun still with this. We're going to keep rocking and rolling. Hopefully, better news lies ahead for us next week, and we see where we actually stand in terms of the prospects of getting the season back up and running. Buddy, always a fun chat with you. And one of the best things to get us through all this nonsense is going to be a couple of chuckles, and we'll be here to do that, hopefully.
Exactly. I can't wait for story time with Brian Blessing. It's going to be a classic.
Hey, folks, this is Brian Blessing. Hope you're enjoying the Hockey Betting Podcast. We have a couple chuckles, try to get you a lot of winners. Hey, we hope you like what you're hearing, and if you do, hit the subscribe button and give us a review, give us a rating. Most importantly, enjoy the hockey and keep coming back to the Hockey Betting Podcast.
The handicapping and sports odds information contained on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Please confirm the wagering regulations in your jurisdiction, as they vary from state to state, province to province, and country to country. Using this information to contravene any law or statute is prohibited. The podcast is not associated with, nor is it endorsed by any professional or collegiate league, association, or team. This podcast does not target and is not intended for an audience under the age of 18. If you think that you have a gambling addiction, stop this podcast now and please seek help.
Gambling and betting on sports is a form of entertainment and should be about having a good time. But when done excessively, it may negatively affect other areas of a person's life, such as their physical and mental health, school or work performance, finances, and or interpersonal relationships. At BetCrisCanada.net and the Hockey Betting Podcast, we're concerned about the addiction that gambling may cause, and for this reason, we encourage everyone to practice responsible gambling, an approach to gambling that helps you ensure that it remains an enjoyable activity. Here are the main principles of responsible gambling. Don't think of gambling as a way to make money. Always gamble with money that you can afford to lose. Set limits and stick to them. Never chase losses. Don't gamble when you're depressed or upset, and create a healthy balance. Always be aware of how much time you spend gambling or thinking about gambling. And do not allow gambling to cause you to miss out on time with family and friends or time spent on other activities you enjoy. By following these guidelines, gambling can be a good time and great entertainment. If you feel at any time that your gambling is taking away from important areas of your life, is causing you stress or depression, or is leading to financial losses that are beyond your control, please reach out for help. Learn more at responsiblegambling.org.